Hello, and welcome to this video guide on papyrus number 39 from the Tibchunas collection housed in the Bancroft Library. Now, many of the documents in this collection were either addressed to or from a man named Menkes, the Comma or village scribe of a small village called Kirke Osiris in the Arsinoite nome of Ptolemaic Egypt. We don't know how long exactly Menkes served in that position, but the earliest we hear of him is through his application to be reappointed to that position in 119 BCE, and the subsequent letter of confirmation of his reappointment that he receives from a man named Maris, who was the topogrammateus or district scribe that he reported to and treated as superior. This particular papyrus, however, dates back to 113 BCE, 4 years after Menkes was reappointed to his position. It is a petition put forth by a man named Apollodoros, the oil contractor for the village of Kirke Osiris, who had also been in his position for the 4th year now, and this was him reporting 2 assaults by an illegal oil producer named Siswas. Petitions were a crucial tool of justice in Ptolemaic Egypt because they sought to invoke official power on behalf of the petitioner, and the one I'll be talking about relates mostly to a case of economic justice. So, there was a royal oil monopoly in Ptolemaic Egypt, and it has since been well documented that there was also a thriving black market for oil in Ptolemaic Egypt in resistance to this monopoly, and the situation got so frequently out of hand that the authorities were generally ineffective in dealing with it. Therefore, it's not that surprising to see that in Papyrus 39, Apollodoros, the oil contractor, reports hearing about there being contraband oil at the house of one Siswas, son of Senapinchis. Interestingly, this is hidden in the shrine of Thoeris, a protective goddess of childbirth and fertility, otherwise known as Taweret, who is typically depicted as a hippopotamus. Since this was a private shrine inside Siswas' house, he probably thought it was a great hiding spot, and certainly it's possible that no one would have even checked there if the secret hadn't somehow gotten out. Apollodoros then describes going to Siswas' house to confront him. He takes with him Tricambos, who is an agent of the oikonomos, which means one who manages household affairs. And this doesn't necessarily mean the affairs of one household, but rather the financial affairs of many households. So he was kind of like a finance minister. And he was taken as backup for the situation in case it had the chance to escalate. However, the two of them are no match for Siswas and his wife Tiresias, who are said to have essentially beaten up the oil contractor and his companion, forcing them away from the residence. This would of course seem to confirm the rumors that the contraband oil was stored in their shrine. 7 days later, Apollodoros encounters Siswas seemingly by chance at the temple of Zeus. With a swordsman named Enilos and the same agent of Oikonomos that he had the other day, Tricambos, on his side, as well as his own wife, it seems that he felt confident enough to try to arrest Siswas again. However, Siswas turns out to have a whole range of allies, including his brother Posiris, and even many people that Apollodoros could name or could not name from the village, and they all had cudgels this time, which was at least more powerful than fists. Once again, the skirmish ended with Apollodoros beaten, his wife's hand wounded as well, and a loss to his contract worth 10 talents, at least according to him. Apollodoros mentioned that even the first time he heard the rumors, he had reached out to the epistates, or administrative official in charge of Kirke Osiris, whose name was Polemon. This statement, alongside the highly meticulous account, with embarrassing details about him being beaten up and all, seems to be Apollodoros' way of saying, hey, I've tried every avenue. I've tried to confront him in person and it didn't work. I've told other village officials and that didn't work. So Menkes, as the village scribe, is one of the few people who can be in contact with even higher authorities. And indeed, he's even in the small minority of the population who can read or write letters at all. Therefore, it was important for Apollodoros to petition Menkes alongside getting in contact with all these other officials and trying maybe a diplomatic avenue to resolve the conflict. A good number of the revenue laws of Ptolemy Philadelphus were related to the distribution of and maintenance of the royal oil monopoly. A monopoly is when one player has exclusive rights to sell something, and nowadays we have antitrust laws to stop companies from becoming monopolies. But a monopoly run by the government itself is not as common, especially as many countries transition to market economies. In the US, we've got a unique example in terms of the US Postal Service. Its main mission is to make sure that everyone in the country can send and receive mail safely and at an affordable price, because it's crucial for our communications and packages to be handled by a reliable and government-sanctioned service. And that's why it's a monopoly. Like, no one else is allowed to start their own mail service in case it's not as reliable. And that's why there was also a big push to support the USPS when it was facing financial trouble in 2020 and 2022. But in contrast, the intention of these laws in Ptolemaic Egypt wasn't necessarily to create a centrally planned economy, or even to provide some public good to the people of the land. To support this, I would specifically like to highlight the 40th law, which sets a price of 1 mitrates or 40 liters of oil as 48 drachmas. And this price was probably much higher than the market price, or the price that people were actually willing to pay for that amount of oil. But of course, the goal of the Ptolemies was to maximize their own profit from this lucrative oil trade and ensure that no cheap foreign oil can legally stand as competition to their domestic reserves. For example, even other revenue laws force anyone caught transporting oil from outside without a permit to pay steep fines of as much as 100 drachmas per mitrates, and to give up their supply, which is probably the fate that would await Siswas, the contraband oil seller, if he was ever apprehended by those higher authorities. Maybe even worse, because he actually resisted and harmed the oil contractor of Kirke Osiris. But the reason that state monopolies like this often lead to black markets popping up is because they often lead to economic inefficiencies. Here you can see in the graph that there's a producer and a consumer surplus, which is the respective benefits that the producer and the consumer of a good receive in each transaction of the good at market price. These two things together make up social welfare. With monopolies, the market price is higher than, or the price is higher than the market price. And because of this, some consumers don't want to buy the good anymore. It's too expensive for them. And that creates a deadweight loss. And this is a loss of social welfare that happens just because the monopolist, in this case the Ptolemies, are setting a price that they want that is way over what people usually want to pay. So in its own way, the thriving black market was an admirable and entirely predictable effort for people to reclaim back more and more of that social welfare that would have otherwise been sacrificed with no one capable of getting it back. Part of the reason I was interested in this papyrus was because, as an economist, I can see the parallels between the black market and oil cartels that form in countries with state monopolies today, like Russia and Nigeria, and the aftermath of these revenue laws in Ptolemaic Egypt. It was also interesting to see how streamlined and methodical the process of reporting a breach of economic law was even back then. This is, of course, a testament to how economics, which comes from the Greek word oikonomos, was revolutionized in that era. This concludes my video guide on Tiptunis Papyrus 39. Thanks for watching.